Guys, thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Real Housewives of New Jersey. This is season 14, episode 13. And mind you, this was a good episode. This was actually a good episode, okay? So I'm excited to talk about it. So let's get into it. Sometimes before we get into it, we get a little spicy, just a little bit. And I just have a few things I want to talk to y'all today about. So first up is this news about the reboot. So y'all know in the last Spicy Corner I did, I played the audio of Andy on his XM radio show where this lady called in and he was saying like, yeah, we're going to definitely reboot it and stuff like that. And a lot of y'all got in the comments and was like, it doesn't even sound like he's being serious. It seems like he was just trying to get her off the phone. And I agree, but I also feel like maybe he was telling the truth. I don't know. I feel like because of New Jersey's like being up in the air, like what they're going to do with the future of the show, I'm kind of feeling like maybe he was telling the truth, but I got where y'all was coming from because he was definitely trying to get that lady off the phone. But this was posted by Page 6 on August the 3rd. Now, I'm not going to read the article, but I'm definitely going to put it in the link to the article in the description box below. But it says this: RHONJ likely won't resume filming until 2025 as producers figure out reboot plans. Now, like I said on the thumbnail, after that scene down at Rails, I don't know if I want to reboot. Because that scene was so chaotic and it was so good that I was just like, if y'all could have gave me this all season, I wouldn't complain. But you didn't give me this all season. It was good TV, you know? It was good TV. And I was like, girl. But honestly, I've always felt this way since last season, that they just should get rid of Teresa and Melissa. Like, I'm not a Gorget. I'm not a tree hugger. I've always felt like they should have gotten rid of Teresa and Melissa and then moved forward. Because I still feel like with the group of women that we have, the show would still be entertaining. And then them adding 2 new people, we still would have had a good show. But I think because the network has built this infrastructure around Teresa as her being legit what people cling to when they think about Real Housewives of New Jersey, that I think they're scared to like move away from her because they knew that they know that they'll lose a decent amount of people and maybe they're afraid to take that hit. But I think at this point, put Teresa on her own show. Like I keep saying, y'all gave Kim Zolciak like 9 to 10 seasons of Don't Be Tardy for the Party. And I don't know nobody who really watched that show. So if y'all could have did that for Kim, I definitely think y'all could do that for Teresa and still have a loyal fan base on that show and then still have Real Housewives of New Jersey be what it is. You know what I'm saying? But that's just my thoughts. Let's get into some of these tweets. So Jennifer posted this tweet where she said, "We just always ha-ha, laugh, funny together at Teresa Giudice." So Jennifer is like, girl, I'm good over here. Y'all ain't got to worry about me and my friend. So then you have Dolores. So Dolores was on Watch What Happens Live, and she posted this of her and Andy. I definitely think Dolores did a good job with her relationship with Bravo. Like, she's on Traitors. I think they're going to keep Dolores or Black Dolores around. But she said this: "I'm on no one's effing schedule except when it comes to Watch What Happens Live, and honored to be here for the wrap of RHONJ season 14. And then it says, "What did you guys think about this episode?" I think it is a big deal that Dolores is actually at Watch What Happens Live, and it's the end of the season. Like, that was the season finale pretty much, and then we're getting the reunion, or not reunion. Like, I think Dolores did a great job cementing her role or her like relationship with Bravo, that I think we're going to be seeing Dolores a lot more. Also, I saw that Jay's reality blog posted that Dolores was asked a question like, who would she bring back for Real Housewives of New Jersey? And she said Teresa and Fessler, which I thought was actually surprising because I thought she would at least say Margaret, because her and Margaret are supposed to be locked in like this. But the fact that she said Teresa and Jen Fessler, I feel like that's telling. That's telling. So you then have Margaret. Margaret had two Instagram posts that she posts. She said, drop the bomb and take the cannolis. Tune in tonight to watch it all blow up in an epic season finale at Bravo, hashtag RHONJ. And then the last one she posted was, you subpoenaed the wrong bitch. And then she put vindicated, hashtag RHONJ. So I said, okay, girl, I don't think Margaret is totally vindicated, but the way she played her hand at Rails, oh, she ate. Margaret ate. She ate. So the last thing we're gonna talk about is this post from Danielle. Danielle is, oh my gosh, this whole thing is stupid with Danielle, but we're gonna talk about it. So Danielle is still feeling some type of way about the comment Jennifer made about her husband having boobs. So now she posted this video of her husband doing like a sexy photo shoot and him talking about how he struggled with his confidence and all of that stuff. So this is what the caption of it says. It says, checkmate. It says, sometimes I find myself wanting to clap back, bite at everyone who barks at me, but then I look at those people and really look at them. What kind of life are they living? The choices they're making, this thing they do compared to who we are, what we do, and how we live, and that's it. Keep yourself humble. Misery loves company, but we're cut from a different cloth, made for different sauces. Stay blessed and remind yourself that the evil-hearted never win. To my husband, you are beautiful and I adore you. Till the wheels fall off, baby. Thank you for being such a good sport. At Nate Cabarelli 5. To Nicole and to the social Butterfly Media team, and Nate and I want to thank you for making it such a comfortable environment and for capturing the beautiful day. And to all the fans of RHONJ fans who have supported me and my family these past 2 seasons, thank you. Hashtag good always wins. Hashtag mic drop. Now, this is why Danielle is corny to me. I'm just going to call it what it is. I don't know how she switched, because last season I really liked Danielle. I thought her personality was like a breath of fresh air, but this season it just feels like she just has a hard on. Like she just feels corny. Like, don't get me wrong, I think it's a good thing that she is instilling, confidence in her husband, bigging him up, especially if he did have body issues. I think a lot of people forget that men do suffer with body issues, but this whole caption in this video is corny as hell to me. When after you and Jennifer got into y'all altercation, you was throwing digs at that lady all season. And then when she finally comes back at you, you can't handle it. And then the whole, like, the good wins over evil. I told y'all, them type of people make my you-know-what itch, because I've met people like that, and those are some of the nastiest people. When you have to constantly say the good wins over evil, girl, you might be the evil. 9 times out of 10, you are the evil, because I've met people like that. Speak normal, okay? Speak normal, Danielle. But kudos for Nate, okay? He is an attractive man. I said the old pictures of him, I would have checked for Nate. Now, I don't like his mustache, not so much, but he's still a handsome guy, okay? But let's get into this review. I have to add this in, like, at the end. Well, yeah, I'm going to add this at the end in Spicy Corner. So I was editing the video and I just saw that Louis made this statement today where it says this: the finale was very tough for me to watch and I want to address it with you all. After watching the finale, I was disappointed in my actions in bringing up Margaret Joseph's son. The reason he was even brought up was because I have been dealing with being falsely accused of calling Margaret's son at his work, which is simply not true. For the last year, Margaret keeps putting this narrative out there that I called her son at work, and I have had to deal with it, knowing I am being lied on. Still, I know better not to bring someone's child up, and it's something I deeply regret, so I do want to apologize and acknowledge that I was wrong. There's been a lot of toxicity on this show that has affected everyone on the show. We have been dealing with a lot of frustrating things behind the scenes, and it has been very hard for our entire family and my children, who have been really impacted by all of this happening at the hands of certain people. 2 wrongs don't make a right, and I deeply regret what I said. So that's what Louis said today. Now, mind you, I will say I kind of think he did call the son, only because I'm like, how was the number your number? On top of that, when you said that statement, like, I hope her son suffers, I hope she suffers, And I was like, what did the son do to you? All I could think of is like maybe he said that because he's mad that he got outed, that he called that person. I truly don't know. But I guess, A for effort for trying to like, take accountability. But it's kind of like the damage has already been done. Your reputation is already shot and you didn't really help it anyway. But yeah, y'all, so let's talk about it. So I'm going to be completely honest. This season was lackluster. I know a lot of people actually enjoyed this season, but for me, out of 13 episodes and I was only gagged by 3 episodes, that says a lot to me. The situation between Danielle and Jennifer, I was like, "Ooh, girl." The reflexes, the shove and the pop, that got me. Then when Margaret sent the screenshots of what Jackie had said about Dolores while Jackie was in Dolores' face, I was like, and I'll never forget Joe being like, "Girl, check your phone." And then this one with all the antics that happened down at Rails. So I feel like me only liking 3 episodes out of 10 is gives me a lackluster season. But I do want to give a shout out to my girls, Trout Mouth Margarita Josephs and New Nose Jennifer, because the way they did that for me, okay? They did that for me. The way Jennifer had Danielle spiraling to the point that lady lunged across the table and was crying in the bathroom, and then Margaret exposing Jackie. I said, my girls cleaned up. They cleaned up and I was proud. But let's talk about this episode. So the episode opens up and we see Dolores going to Margaret's house. So we know Margaret and Jennifer Fessler, we know Margaret wasn't invited to the whole Teresa and the lawyer sit down, but Jennifer Fessler was, but Margaret guilted her into not going. Basically saying, girl, if you was my real friend, you wouldn't be going to one of my biggest ops house to listen to somebody talk bad about me. And I don't disagree. So Jennifer Fessler didn't go, but both Margaret and Jennifer Fessler want to know, like, girl, what happened at this sit down with Teresa and the lawyer? So Dolores pulls up, they sit in the den area and excuse me, sorry y'all. They sit in the den area and Dolores pretty much tells Margaret it wasn't a bashing session. It was just Teresa explaining why for the past couple of months she's been so stressed and so antsy and so like tense. And it's mainly because of this whole lawsuit situation with the ex. And then Dolores also explains that like these are my words but not hers. But Teresa feels like you are a collaborator with this ex that they feel like has been terrorizing their family. And they said that you probably been talking to this lady since 2021. So they do a flashback um to season, I want to say 12 with Tiki Barber's wife, where Margaret and all of them were like in the woods doing some team building stuff, and her and Teresa got into it about this whole situation where Teresa was like, and you, this one saying that my man's abusive and all of this stuff, and Margaret said, I didn't say that. The exes said that, girl. They're the ones that said that stuff. I didn't say any of that. Okay. And so then Teresa accuses Margaret of like talking to the exes and kind of like pushing them to put stuff out there. And Margaret is like, girl, you're crazy, whatever. So Margaret ends up being like, well, I didn't know the lady back in 2021. She was like, I only saw what I saw online. But she was like, have I been in contact with her? Yes, I've been in contact with the ex, mainly after the reunion, which was last year, after it was found out that Louis had an investigation done on everyone by Bo Dietl, as well as him reaching out to her son. And so Margaret is like, yeah, I talked to her after that. Dolores is like, really, Margaret? Really? And so Dolores is kind of like, I want no parts of like any of this. I don't want no parts of like any of this, like people being like in the court systems. I don't want anything to do with that. But but Dolores is like, I am kind of shocked that you would talk to someone like her, the caliber of lady that person is. So that tells me that this situation with Louis and his ex is really like both of them are toxic. Like they both probably did some messed up things to each other. And because every time I read something about this person and Louis, it just feels like there's fault on both sides. Now the other women that have come out against him, I can't say anything about it because I don't know too much about that, but it does seem like he probably was a terror to be around. And looking at Teresa and the way she looks drained and tired, I believe those women. I believe he's a menace, okay? He gives con artist, snake oil salesman, somebody that will stress you all the way out. So Margaret is like, yeah, I talked to her. So Dolores is just like, really, girl? So then Margaret ends up saying something to the effect is like, well, at least I'm not throwing like a bashing party on somebody. And I think this is when Dolores brings up like, well, no, Teresa mentioned the whole thing y'all did before the reunion and trying to like gather information on Louis to take them down. And Margaret was like, girl, it wasn't even that. It was a reunion review. And then Dolores was like, well, I'm glad I wasn't invited. Well, then Margaret is like, yes, you were. I did invite you to it. I don't know why she said that, because the moment she said that, Dolores looked at her like, you did not invite me to that. And Margaret is like, yes, I did. And Dolores is like, you did not invite me to that. You're lying. And Margaret is like, I'm not lying. And Dolores's face was like, you are lying. Like, you did not invite me to that. Like, and so Margaret ends up saying, yes, I did. I called you 2 days before we were having the sit down, and you said something flippant like, I don't want to be a part of that. Like, I don't want to really do that or something like that. And Dolores said, you're a lying effing cunt. I did not do that. Now, mind you, I don't think that's a bad word, but I know in the white lady community, you don't call nobody a see you next Tuesday unless you're ready to square up. They get offended by that. So she was like, Margaret is like, Dolores. And Dolores is like, you're lying. When I tell you, I thought Dolores was about to stroke out because the veins in her neck were popping, and she had that big Erica Mena vein on the top of her forehead. Like, Dolores was like, you're lying. You're lying. Like, Dolores was pissed. And Margaret is like, what do I have to lie for, Dolores? I definitely invited you to it. She ends up saying that she invited Dolores, and I guess Dolores was either with Teresa or Jennifer having lunch or something like that. And Dolores was like, I don't care if I was at the gynecologist. You never did that. You never asked me to do that. So then Dolores pops up and she's like, girl, I'm out. You got Jennifer Fessler being like just her hands, like just closing her eyes, holding her hands to her, like her face to her hands, like Jesus. And she's in the confessional, like, this cannot be the reason why everyone's beefed out. Like, this is not like, are we really seriously arguing about this? And then Jennifer Fessler is like, the toxicity in this group is just, it seeps throughout everybody's friendship, because Dolores is pissed. She was like, girl, you're lying. So then as she pops up, like she's about to leave, Margaret's like, Dolores, sit down. Like, I'm offended that you're even yelling at me like this, and that you're about to leave my house like this. Like, we are so close. Like, I would never say these things to you, even if I was mad at you. Like, why are you being this way? And Dolores is like, because you're lying to my face. Like, you're blatantly lying to me, like, and I don't like that. So somehow, some way, Dolores ends up sitting back down. She kind of calms down a little bit, because Margaret was like, well, it's not that deep. And Dolores is like, it is, because you're lying to me. Don't lie to me like that. Because I think Dolores is kind of taken aback that Margaret is like admitting that she did talk to the ex, because for so long, Margaret has been saying that she had no contact with this person. And now it's like, well, girl, you have had contact with her. So you've been lying to me. So then Dolores is just like, girl, for real. And so then Jennifer Fessler hops into the conversation, and she ends up being like, look, no one wants to be called a liar. Margaret's like, I ain't calling her a liar. She just called me a see you next Tuesday. Like, I'm about to cry. And so Dolores is like, don't cry. My bad. You're not that. I'm sorry. And so Jennifer Fessler is just kind of like, well, this is why we wanted to have that whole getaway, and like, so we could all like really get to know each other again, or like come to terms with our issues. But the house burned down to the frame. And before the scene ends, or when the scene ends, we have two confessionals. Margaret in her confessional being like, I don't have a reason to lie, and I definitely asked her to come. Maybe she remembers it differently, but I definitely asked her to come. Then you have Dolores being like, I can't believe Margaret is doing this. She's trying to paint me out to be like this horrible friend to Teresa, and like I'm disloyal. Like, thanks, Margaret. Now I see what you're capable of doing to me. And two things can be true. I think Margaret is telling the truth about Dolores, that she did reach out to Dolores and invite her to come to this review session before the reunion. But I feel like Dolores was pissing Dolores off because I think Dolores feels like Margaret is trying to create this narrative that she was in on this sit down. And we now know that the sit down was all of them conspiring to take Louis and Teresa down. And Dolores is still like, girl, I've known this lady since I was 14. I still care about Teresa. We've been knowing each other since 14. That's over like 4 or 5 decades because I think they all in their 50s now. And so she's like, don't try to paint me out to be this way. And I also think Dolores was shocked that Margaret said this on camera more than anything. But I do think that two things are true. I do think that, girl, she asked you to come, Dolores, and you declined. And I also feel like you're pissed because you feel like she's trying to create this narrative that like you was in on this takedown. So now you're like, bitch, you're lying because I did not, you didn't call me. We ain't, no, don't do that to me, girl. Don't do it. But it is what it is. So then we see another sit down with Danielle, Rachel, and Melissa, and they're at Rachel's house. And Danielle's doing the same thing that Dolores was doing, downloading the girls on like what happened. So Danielle is telling them about how Teresa is 90 pounds soaking wet. It's a lot of chaos in that house over there. She was like, it's a lot going on over there. And pretty much, they were like, who all was there? And, she says, Jennifer, Aiden, Jackie, Melissa rolls her eyes, and then she was like Dolores, and then she said Gia, and then Melissa was like, oh, she needed her backup there, or some comment. Like, it was a very flippant comment. And that's the thing about Melissa that irritates me, because Melissa tries to act like she's so like, my family, my family, my family. I've always been there for those girls. But if you truly cared about your family, no matter if you had beef with their mother, you would still be respectful to those kids. And I get it. Gia's older. She said some things that y'all weren't fans of. But at the end of the day, she was protecting her mom. And people are always going to ride with their mama before they ever ride with their aunt-in-law, technically. Like, not even technically, you are their aunt-in-law. Like, they're never going to ride with you. So for her to make that comment, I was like, okay, Melissa, we get it. You don't like Gia. But then you can't, because what she said at the end at Rails really irritated me. Honestly, Melissa irritated me this whole entire episode. And normally I can give or take Melissa. I'm like really indifferent to her. But the way she was irritating me, and when they was at Rails, I was over her. I was so over her. But pretty much, Danielle is like, Teresa is really skinny. And then Rachel is like, that's because she on Ozempic. I said, okay, Rachel, we get it. You hate the lady. we get it. But it's clear as day that you can tell that man is taking her through. And Teresa looks tired AF. Whenever you look at, Teresa's always been skinny, but when you look in her face, you can see the life in her eyes kind of slowly leaving as she's been around this person. So they then talk about the whole like situation at like the Last Supper and the whole house burning down. And Danielle makes a comment about how, when she saw Jennifer Aiden the last time, she was like, I'm surprised you didn't burn up in this place, because the place they were at looked like a church, like a cathedral. And they were like, oh, I wonder what room caught on fire. And Danielle was like, oh, it was the house where Teresa and Jennifer was going to be at. See, I was telling the truth. And I'm like, okay, so you making these types of digs, but you about to cry when she come for your husband. But okay, Danielle. I just can't. I can't. Because I don't feel bad for that lady. So they're like, Rachel asked Danielle, so are you prepared to speak to Jennifer? And Danielle's like, yeah, I'm really prepared to speak to Jennifer. I'm just hurt because I was a good friend to her, better than Teresa has ever been to her, because I listened to her. I was really there for her. And the thing about Danielle and Rachel that irritate me is I feel like, I don't know what the Jennifers have done to Danielle and Rachel to make them feel like these year-long friendships were this deep and this important. Like, you got Rachel crying and crashing out over Jennifer Fessler, and now you got Danielle feeling like this was such a deep personal relationship that I'm just like, do y'all not have like a friendship hierarchy? Because in my mind, I don't start really like, I may call you my friend, but you're not really my friend until we 2 years in. Like, for me, it goes associate, friend, close friend, best friend, cousin. The progression. That's how it flows for me. And I'm just like, I learned early on, you don't call everybody your friend. I had to learn that in high school. You can't call everybody your friend. And so it's just like, for them to be so like, oh my gosh, we had this bond, and I'm like, it doesn't even seem like y'all really spent time together. Like Rachel was crying about Jennifer Fessler being at her Christmas party. Okay, girl, it was a Christmas party. And she was being really cool with your kids. Danielle talking about, I listened to her. That's how you build a friendship. You're supposed to listen to each other and their problems. So I'm just kind of like, I just don't get. I feel like they're both really dramatic, and I don't think either of these friendships were that deep for you to be this butthurt about it, in my opinion. So the next scene we have is of Danielle with her family. So it looks like she has now, like she's ready now to like reach out to her dad. It's Halloween season, so the kids are in the kitchen carving pumpkins. I would have did that outside. Mind you, I think I'm gonna paint my pumpkin because I saw like really cool painted pumpkins last season. I guess last year for Halloween, but I'm gonna have to open it up because I like the pumpkin seeds. I like to put them in the oven and stuff. But pretty much, she wants to reach out to her dad. She says after this whole situation with Jennifer that she feels like it's important that she works on the relationships or the real relationship she has now. So she's reaching out to her father. While they're in the kitchen, she pretty much doesn't call her dad. She calls him Sam. So they use code names around the kids. Now, mind you, Danielle's kids don't look stupid. And kids aren't stupid. Kids are very much like observant creatures. So I know for a fact they probably have noticed that their grandfather hasn't been around, that their dad is always the one dropping them off with to their grandfather's house, like that they really aren't in communication with each other. So I don't think using code names really really helps. But Danielle says in her confessional that she pretty much every time she tries to reach out to her father, she starts to think about how her dad chose her brother's side again, and it really like bothers her. Nate has been doing a great job with reaching out to the family, staying in communication with the dad because, he knows that how important that relationship is to her and her kids and to himself. So he ends up telling her, girl, life is too short. So she actually gets a text back from her dad while she's sitting at the table, and he basically is like happy that she reached out, told her that, he was proud of her, and she was actually surprised because she's like, he's never really said that to her. Now, mind you, she was in the confessional like crying, being like, he's missed a lot of things because this year has been very pivotal for her. And she's not lying. She was in New York Fashion Week. They did the whole revamping of the Glitter Kids thing and then Kids Bop. He was invited to the Kids Bop thing and the Glitter Kids thing, but like I guess for the Glitter Kids thing, he was sick. Like they do a flashback, and I think Nate was saying like he's on antibiotics and he was coughing. So he couldn't come to that. And then for the Kids Bop thing, we find out that the stepmom, his wife, ended up having like eye surgery. So he wanted to stay home and take care of her. So it's not like she hasn't been wanting him to come, but it's mainly been Nate doing the reaching out. So I think it probably meant more to the dad that she texted him and was like, hey, I want to talk to you and stuff like that. And now he probably feels more open. When it comes to this situation with Danielle and her family, I do feel like it's like rinse and repeat of what Teresa and Joe had. But I kind of feel like Danielle's the problem. And now I'm not saying that because I don't really see it for Danielle. I'm only saying this because the way Danielle has been making slick comments about Jennifer, I feel like she was probably doing the same to the sister-in-law. Because when you listen to the commentary about how she talks about her sister-in-law and the wedding, it's similar to the way Teresa talked about Melissa. Like you being mad, like you're being passive aggressive, making slick comments. And the way Danielle behaves when she's around Jennifer, I feel like she was doing the same thing. On top of that, I do really think it's kind of crazy that we haven't heard anything from the brother, and he gave back the baby gift. Like, I really feel like the fact that we haven't seen them say anything really signifies that they really don't want any parts of Danielle. On top of how she was like pushing her father away, the same man we saw sit on that couch in their house, burst into tears about his son and his daughter not having a relationship and how that really bothers him because he didn't raise them like this. I feel like, sis, you might be the problem. I really do. Because her whole explanation about like her brother making comments about her TikToks and how it really bothered her and she blocked him, and then it turned into them not, really severing ties with each other. There's more to this story, and I feel like Danielle is not telling the full story because I feel like she knows if she does tell the story, it might make her look bad. And her being like, my dad's always taking my brother's side, but she never has really given examples. I want her, like, if someone's always taking your dad's, if your dad's always taking your brother's side, I want you to, like, give me examples. Like, he pushed me and you took his side, or he stole from me and he took his, like, because when you explain things to me, it makes the story more believable, at least for me. So I just think that she might be the problem. She might be the problem, okay? So it's time for the get together at Rails, and we see Margaret talking to Joe. She got her hair in rollers, and Joe was like, "How you feeling?" And Margaret is like, "Girl, I do have a few things I need to say to Teresa, because I'm about." But then she pretty much, her target is Jackie, because she's like, "Oh, I'm about to blow Jackie's spot up. Jackie, Judas Goldschneider. Does Teresa know all the things you've done?" And so Joe is laying on the bed like, "Oh Lord, here we go." Here we go, girl. So then we see Teresa and Louie at their home, and Louie's pretty much asking the same thing. Like, what are you going to say to Margaret and Melissa? And, you know, Teresa's like, I'm going to confront her about the things that she's done to our family, how she's terrorized our family. Louie ends up saying, I wish nothing but suffering to Margaret and her son. And I said, sir, that to me confirms that you did call her son. Because I was like, what the boy do to you? And I know her son is like in his late 30s, early 40s probably. But I'm just like, why suffering to the son? On top of that, for Louis to have this whole like namaste, like he has on a shirt that says transcendence, like I'm supposed to be in tune with my chakras, for you to say you wish suffering on somebody says a lot about you. Now, I'm not saying you cannot like the people that you don't like, because there's a handful of people that I don't like, and they know I don't like them. Okay, but I don't think I've ever taken the time out to be like, I wish nothing but the worst and suffering for them. Like, that's just not something I say out of my mouth. I just be like, you know what, you gonna have the life that you deserve. That's the quickest thing I'll say. I hope you have the life that you deserve. Okay, and that's my way of saying, because you're crappy, your life's gonna be crappy. But I've never been like, I wish them nothing but suffering. And it's just crazy because it's like, bro, your whole shtick is like, I'm transcended and I'm all this higher being and I'm always doing these devotionals and I'm this inner peace. And it's like, that's not what you giving, Louis. It's not. So then, like I said, he brought up Melissa. And Teresa was like, I ain't got nothing to say to Melissa. I don't have nothing. My brother knows I'm done with him. She know I'm done with her. I don't have anything to say to them. Teresa says, you know what? I'm happy that while my parents were here, I was able to hold it together. So when they left, they knew me and my brother were in a good place, and they died happy. Now that they're not here anymore, I don't have to keep up this facade that I really want to have this relationship with my brother. So I'm good on everybody. So Teresa ready for whatever. We then get this scene of Melissa with Joe, and Joe has on, No-No's watch, his dad's watch. And, he thinks about, he was like, sometimes I just think about him. And they do a flashback where it was his, was a memorial. Yeah, a memorial. And it was down at the shore. And I think this was episode 11, not episode 11, season 12, I think, where Teresa and that's when we initially got introduced to Louie. And, Joe and her end up crying because she was Dad told me on his deathbed to look out for my sister, and I'm always going to look out for you. And they both start crying. You then have Melissa explaining to Joe about how Danielle told her and Rachel that like Teresa is going through it at that house, like and the girls are also going through it too. And she was just kind of like, I didn't know what to say to it, because like, what are we supposed to do? Like, we not in communication with them. And Joe ends up saying like, Teresa is old school Italian. She's never going to admit that there's issues in her home. Like, that's just not what she's going to do. She was like, I hate that for them, but like, I can't. I don't know how I can operate with my sister anymore. Like, Louis came in our lives and really did us dirty. They flash back to the whole pizzeria situation, then him doing the investigation, then that scene where Frank and Joe are like, are you paying people to put out negative stories about us? We have people saying that that's what you're doing. Like, everyone's in cahoots. Like, how do I trust her again? So I just don't know. So then Melissa is like, well, are you happy with the way things are right now? And Joe's like, yeah, I'm happy with my life and the way it is right now. So then Melissa's like, so how do you want me to handle this? He was like, handle it the way you see fit. And I'm just like, Melissa, what are you handling? You and Teresa have not had any communication other than the what's it called? Other than the bottle situation, and that wasn't really anything. So what are you handling? You should just be going there to sit there, look pretty, and drink, and look at all the chaos that ensues. I don't get it. I don't get it. She's just happy because now she feels like she has free range to be how she always wanted to be with Teresa. Because they do all the flashbacks. When I tell you, Joe used to talk to his sister nasty, I'd have popped him in the throat. Like, dead in the Adam's apple. Who you talking to? Who are you talking to? But they show us the christening. They show what happened back in 2012. I think that was a season where they were trying to run this narrative that Melissa was a stripper and a whore. And then they do like the cheese plate situation. Like, their relationship has always had issues. So now Melissa is like, my husband's cool with how I move. So now I can really move the way I want to move. So now she's like, okay, I'm on a mission when I go to Rails. So we see everybody pull up at Rails. I saw too many people online talking about this is giving Mob Wives. They could never. Also, stop saying put Drita on Mob Wives. Drita would be in prison. That Albanian woman would be in prison with these women. The same Drita who walked into their reunion when they were in that warehouse, threw her purse on the table, said, Karen, get up. And Karen got up and they got the whopping. They got the tussling. The same Drita who fought Karen on top of Renee. The same Drita who got into a fight with Karen and the other Renee, and they was fighting at that party, and Drita was just throwing haymakers and swinging every which way. Drita would be in prison. You can't even put Karen on there, because even though Karen almost every time took a L when it came to Drita, she was never scared. Karen was always ready to be like, girl, let me get up and let's go. Okay? Love would definitely be in prison. Okay, even Renee tried to choke that one girl, came up behind her and was like trying to take her down. Like, all of those women would be in prison. Because these women on these shows would call 911 faster. I mean, faster than lightning, okay? They would not play any games. So I stopped referring them and saying, that's who y'all need to get on this show. So everybody pulls up the Rails. Teresa is the last one to get there. She already got an attitude because she see that they got her sitting in front of Margaret, and she's like, I don't want to sit in front of her because she's going to be wearing what's on this table. And this is where Teresa, I'm like, because when Teresa tried to tell Danielle not to be aggressive or not to get violent, you walked into this event basically saying Margaret was going to wear the food that was on the table. And we've seen you push Andy. We've seen you flip tables. We've seen you slam juice on Margaret before. So you are not the person to tell anybody, don't get violent, ma'am. So they end up moving her so she's not sitting in front of Margaret. So she's sitting down, and we see Dolores and Jennifer Fessler get in front of the table, and they're pretty much like, hey, we want this to be a moment where we can all state our grievances and get everything out. And if we need to interject, we will interject to mediate the situation, but we're going to let you guys talk. So they said, first up, let's do Jennifer Aiden and, and Danielle. So Danielle is like, I want to be able to have a civilized conversation with you without, getting too aggressive or anything like that. Danielle's like, I want to too if you're capable. I said, oh, she clocked in. I knew Jennifer was clocked in. I said, because this is the Jennifer I remember. The one that was like, Merriam-Webster, where you at? That's the Jennifer I fell in love with. The old nose Jennifer. Because Jennifer used to hit that nerve on the girls, and they would crash out over her. And I said, oh, she with it. She with it. And I'm happy. So Danielle ends up telling Jennifer, when you question me, you need to look at yourself. And Jennifer's looking at Danielle like, okay. And she ends up being like, that for the charity, I spent $600 on you and Teresa, on your Ubers, on your food, and then the rest of the money we took out of the budget. And so Jennifer's like, that's what it is. Like, you took money out of the budget for your charity, and I guess that money is supposed to just be given to the charity. And she was like, it's because you don't have no money. It's because you don't have no money. That's why you doing it. And she was like, I get it. You want the lifestyle that I live. You went to my house. You saw how the way I was living. I get that's the way you want to live, but not everybody can do that. So then you got Melissa trying to put her 2 cents in, talk about, well, you can have all the money in the world, but if you're not humble, it doesn't mean shit. And I'm like, Melissa, if you don't shut up and stay at the end of the table, zip it. So they're going back and forth. So then Danielle's like, you know what? I feel sorry for you. You have that house with 18 rooms in it, but it's empty. I know you're sad. I know you cry yourself to sleep at night. And Jennifer is like, empty. It's filled with love, girl. It's filled with love. Cry. It's filled with love. So then Jackie ends up saying, I think we need to move on. And Dolores is like, yeah, I agree. We're not going to get anywhere with this. So then Jennifer is like, girl, I'm good. I'm fine. I'm laughing at her. Like she's a clown. You got Rachel going like, so then Danielle ends up saying, at least I know when I go home, my husband's waiting for me. You couldn't touch what we had with a 10-foot pole. And then Jennifer says, oh, okay, sweetie, the same husband with the man boobs, the husband with the boobs, and you got the brawn. Next thing you know, Danielle lunges across the table like a rabid dog with rabies, trying to get at Jennifer. Everybody is like, you got Margaret's eyes big as hell. Jennifer Fessler is like, Dolores and Teresa blocked whatever whatever Danielle threw at what's her name at Jennifer, because if you look at the previews for this episode, they took out where you visibly see, and it cuts really quick, but you see Danielle grab something like she's about to chuck it, and they clipped it out. But pretty much you see Teresa kind of push something, no, you see Dolores kind of push something out the way, and Teresa put her arm in front of Jennifer. So I don't know, I feel like she did throw something, because I don't think you would be doing this to block somebody. But either way, Jennifer slid back from the table. You got Rachel being like, yo, like, bro, what is your problem? You have Teresa being like, don't get violent. What's wrong with you? Then you have Melissa saying they learned from the best white trash. And Melissa had been waiting to say that, because I was like, this fight wasn't even your fight. It had nothing to do with you and Teresa. Nothing to do with you and Teresa. So why were you so happy to be like, they learned from the best white trash? I was like, Melissa, you look corny as hell. You look corny as hell. So down. I said the fact that Rachel is like, no, like the person you brought onto this show has enough common sense to be like, everybody just needs to stop. And you're like, they learn from the best white trash. And so then all of a sudden you end up seeing Teresa call Melissa whore. She's like, okay, whore. Okay, whore. And this is where Melissa irritated me the most, where she was like, I'm Antonia's mother. I'm going to tell Antonia that you think her mother's a whore. Okay? Like, if I'm supposed to care about Antonia, you should be caring about your other 4 nieces, because you were so gleefully happy to tell her they learned from the best white trash. You blurted that out. You initiated the name calling. So I'm supposed to care about your children when you don't care about mine? Girl, shut up and sit down somewhere. So out of nowhere, Melissa starts posing where she's like, then Teresa starts doing this. I was like, what in the hell is going on? Why are they having a pose off? Like what in the chaos is going on? What is going on, bro? So then the producers, not producers, it was security. Security is the ones that grabbed Danielle and yanked her away to where she was like on the wall, and she's like, come on, you animal. I said, how you calling her an animal? And you lunged across the table like a puma at her. So they escort Danielle out in the lobby area. Jennifer's just sitting there being like, and y'all want me to be cool with that? Y'all want me to make up with that? She can say that I'm in a loveless marriage and I cry myself to sleep at night, but all I said is your husband got man titties and she ready to fight me? Yeah, whatever, bro. I'm not making up with her. Even Margaret was like, yeah, she did the most. Like, she did too much. And then this shows you how much Melissa cares about Danielle, because I think Rachel and Danielle actually have a friendship, because Rachel and Margaret, because Margaret didn't even go out there. Rachel was the first one to go out there with Dolores to check up on Danielle. The people that Danielle is supposed to be riding for, which is Margaret and Melissa, sat down at their table, and Melissa made it about herself, calling Teresa white trash instead of making sure that Danielle was okay, trying to calm her down while she getting hemmed up on the window by security. And so Teresa comes out there and she's like, Danielle, now you see what I've been like, Danielle's like, she talked about my family, Teresa, but she was like, it's like, Margaret's done the same thing. And Danielle's like, it's not about you, Teresa, which is not. And I said, Teresa, get away from that lady. Get away. She was like, but then Teresa, like, all I'm saying is, Margaret's been coming from my family and you don't got to get violent. I said, Teresa, go sit down. Go sit down. So you got Rachel telling Danielle, girl, pull it together, get it together. They then take Danielle into the bathroom and we hear Dolores telling Danielle to get it together, like calm down and get it together. And Jennifer's just sitting at the table like, y'all saw what I just saw, and I ain't do nothing for real, for real. Like I said, Jennifer's sitting at the table being like, this is who y'all want me to be cool with. Margaret even said like that was too much. Like she didn't need to do that, saying Danielle didn't need to lunge across the table. And so then Jennifer Fessler is like, you know what? This ain't my vibe. This ain't my type of scene. I'm out. And I mean, I don't blame her, but it's just kind of like, girl, you know what type of show you signed up for. But I also don't fault people that are like, I'm not comfortable in this situation. Let me pull out. And she left. She packed up her bags. She grabbed her purse and she said, girl, I can't do this. And so she left. So we find out that, they put Danielle on the balcony and, what's her name? And Dolores comes in back to the private room and she's like, where's Jennifer Fessler? And they's like, she left. And so they asked Jennifer Aiden, like, are you okay with her coming back in? Because production was like, popped up and Jennifer was like, she need to leave, but some time had passed. And so Jennifer, Aiden was like, I guess so. I grant her permission to come back in. I said, Jennifer. And so I said, girl, you did that right. Jennifer did that right. You had that lady spin out so bad that now they're asking you permission if she can come back into this place. I said, girl, you did it right. You did it right. You made me proud. You made me proud. But Jennifer is better than me because honestly, had I been Jennifer, I probably would have put a plate in Danielle's face when she came back in there with security. Like we would have fought. Like I think the show probably like we would have fought. Because it's one thing for you to hit me because I initiated the fight first. Like I told y'all, Danielle was well within her right to defend herself against Jennifer. But in this instance, Danielle too comfortable with wanting to put hands on Jennifer. And if I was Jennifer, I would have made you realize, don't ever think you can touch me again and not be leaving bloodied. Because she lunged across that table because that lady says your husband have man titties. Because that lady says your husband had man titties. Are you serious? Like, are you serious? Like, that is, girl. And I know people are like, well, Nate has a medical condition. So? Y'all have this double standard when it comes to Jennifer, where it's like, it's okay for people to say and do things to her. And I'm not saying Jennifer is an angel because she's not. She's a gutter snipe just like the rest of them on this show. But it's like, y'all do this thing where y'all focus in on what she has done in retaliation to what they have done to her. And I think it's crazy to me that I'm supposed to have sympathy for Danielle when Danielle has been calling this lady everything but a child of God since that fight. She was in her confessional saying that she wished nothing but the worst for Jennifer. She said that she was surprised that lady didn't burn down in this church. She told her as she walked out, you look like shit, by the way. Like, and she's supposed to care about her marriage and her husband when she just sat here and told that lady she was in a loveless marriage and that, you know, they couldn't touch what her and Nate have. And mind you, all Danielle had to say, because there's that narrative out there that Bill doesn't love Jennifer, is at least my husband with the man boobs loves me and is not sleeping in the pool house. And we could have went from there. But the fact that she said your husband had man boobs pissed you off that badly, girl, something's up with that. Something is up with that. And again, Jennifer's better than me because Danielle's too comfortable with wanting to put hands on her. Because I promise you, she would have had a plate to the face and we would have been fighting. Like, I don't even get down like that. But what's not going to happen is you getting comfortable with thinking you could just put your hands on me and I'm not going to leave. Like, we're both not going to leave this situation with bruises and scars. That's just not what it's going to be. So, They let Danielle come back in after Jennifer said it was okay. You could tell that Danielle was scared that they was going to kick her out of the scene because she sits down and they're like, no, you need to go. She's like, no, I'll be good. And they're like, no, sit at the end of the table. You can't sit near her. And so they don't sit her near Jennifer. And so Jennifer's quiet, Danielle is quiet, and they proceed on with the conversations. So then Margaret starts to speak to Teresa where she's pretty much saying that you think I'm doing something, but I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm not putting stories out there. I'm not moving puzzle pieces. I'm not doing that. The last time I talked to that lady, she was like, the first time I talked to that lady was in 2020. Basically, Dolores picks up on how Margaret is lying, because Margaret says she didn't speak to that lady till after the reunion, and that was in 2023. So you have been in contact with her during the times Teresa was like, you've been talking to the ex and been getting them to put stories out there. Now, I don't know if Margaret has been telling them to put stories out there, but she's definitely been talking to the ex. So Teresa was like, yeah, like, you have been doing that stuff, Margaret. You've been talking to the blogs. You've been putting stuff out there. You even was talking to this one over there, basically Rachel, putting things in her mind that we've been talking to her baby, to the baby mama, and telling her to put stories out there about John. And so then Rachel is like, no, girl. Like, Rachel's like, Rachel ends up saying, like, could it be true that you don't know everything that your husband is doing? Which is true. And then Teresa said, could it also be true that you don't know what your husband is doing and how bad his crimes are? Which is also true, too. It's also true, too. So, Rachel ends up saying, keep my husband's name out of your hot dog balloon lips. And so Teresa is like, well, you started it. Like, you mentioned my husband first. And I'm looking at Rachel. You look like a Tim Burton reject character. You are missing half of your nose. You cannot tell nobody. You cannot come at anybody's cosmetic surgery when everybody at that table has had a nose job, got their titties done, or got body enhancements. Dolores got a whole BBL. Melissa, Danielle, Jennifer have all got their nose done. We know, what's her name? Margaret has got her titties done. Teresa probably got her titties done. Jackie has probably had surgery. Like, the only person I think that maybe has not gotten work done might be Jennifer Fessler. And if anything, she might get Botox and fillers. But I was just like, that didn't hit for me. It didn't hit for me, because I'm like, you can tell me nothing when I can see the inside of your skull from your nose. I can see your brain. Shut up. And so Rachel's like, she's so obsessed with me. She's so obsessed with me. And I was like, okay, Rachel, I guess the corniness of Melissa is hopped on to you. Because then you got Melissa being like, I'm going to sit over here with my whoreness. Melissa wanted to be included so badly, and she looked pathetic. And like I said, I'm normally indifferent to Melissa, but she irritated me so bad when they're at this rail scene. And so Rachel ends up saying to Teresa, Margaret didn't say anything to us about that. Our friend, like a family friend, told us about that. So then Margaret is like, honestly, Teresa, you shouldn't be worried about me. You should be worried about the person you sit next to, which was Jackie. So then they do a confessional of Jackie, where Jackie would then starts talking about like the Louis takedown meeting that they had. And she was like, Margaret won't say it's a takedown, but that's what it was. That is what it was. It was a takedown. We were all mad and pissed off at Teresa and Louis, and everybody that was there was preparing to take them down. So then Jackie is like, what are you talking about, Margaret? She was like, you want to know who was in contact with the exes? You want to know? It was Jackie. Jackie had Vanessa. They bleeped out the girl's name, but I think the lady's name is Vanessa, at her house in 2021. So everyone at the table is like, what? And Jackie is denying it. She's like, girl, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. She's denying it hard. But then Dolores ends up saying, girl, you might as well admit it. And even Jennifer was like, yeah, you might as well admit it if she got proof. Jennifer was actually trying to help this situation because Teresa was over talking Margaret. And Jennifer was like, Teresa, if you have all the facts and the proof, then you shouldn't be worried about what Margaret has to say. Let her get it out. And so even in this situation, when Margaret ends up exposing that Jackie has been in contact with the exes since 2021, she was just like, let her say, let her speak. And so eventually Jackie had to like agree to it and just come clean after Dolores and Jennifer was like, if Margaret is saying that you did it, she probably has proof. And then we see a scene of Margaret in the confessional where she actually is reading out a DM conversation she had with the ex, where she's telling the ex how they're having this meeting with the lawyer, Teresa's lawyer. And she was like, the ex is like, who all is going? And she ended up saying Jackie, and the lawyer, and the ex is like, that's mighty convenient and kind of weird when Jackie had me over at her house in 2021 and we were trading stories. So then Jackie ends up having to like cop to it and be like, yes, I had the ex over at my house in 2021. Danielle is like, Jennifer is like, girl. And even Melissa is like, they're all like, girl, for real. And then Teresa ends up forgiving Jackie. And I agree with what Jennifer said. Teresa is not about to give Margaret the satisfaction. But what would have been an iconic scene if both Margaret and Teresa would have wrapped Jackie up at that table. But I definitely felt like Margaret was deflecting onto Jackie because you lied. You told us in the beginning of this episode you didn't talk to that lady till 2023, but you were talking to her in 2021. Jackie's whole reasoning for talking to that lady is with the whole Evan situation where her and Teresa weren't friends and she was trying to get Teresa back for what she said about Evan. So Teresa says, I'm okay with that. But it's like, Teresa was telling the truth about you, Margaret. You were in contact with this lady. I don't know if you were putting stories out there, but you were talking to the exes. But you were you were viciously like denying it season after season. To now you cop into it to throw Jackie under the bus, and you threw her under the bus. You did because Jackie couldn't say nothing. So then Margaret gets up and say, Jackie is the one who we all should be worried about and looking out for. She's the one. So then Jackie's like, Margaret, whatever. After Teresa says she's okay with it, then Melissa was like, I'm still getting shit about sprinkles. And I said, girl, this ain't got nothing to do with you. Shut up, Melissa. And then Margaret is like, and you forgive her that quickly, Teresa? And again, to what Jennifer said, Teresa's not going to give Margaret the credit because she don't like Margaret. So the scene ends up ending with everybody leaving the table after this revelation. And this is when Margaret ends up saying, you subpoenaed the wrong bitch. You should have been subpoenaing Jackie. And she's like, Jackie's a lawyer. Jackie knows how to get all these stories out there. Like, this is the person you should have been going after, not me. And so everyone's kind of like, woo. So then as they're leaving the table, Danielle tries to like say something to Teresa and Jennifer about being friends with Jackie. But I'm like, girl, you was just crying in the bathroom. Shut up and go on somewhere. And so in the lobby area, you have Melissa and what's her name? Melissa and Rachel being like, well, Margaret, why didn't you tell us this? And Margaret was like, girl, I just found out about this 3 days ago. 3 days ago. And so Dolores is happy because Dolores is like, I always told y'all never to trust Jackie. I always told you that. And Jackie is like, I'll never be friends with Margaret again. I said, girl, don't nobody care about that. You just got exposed right now. And so Dolores is like, Jackie is shitting her pants right now. She was even walking like she had shit in her pants when she was like it was just like a little like kind of like a tiptoeing out there. And you could tell that she's embarrassed and like mortified by this situation. Jennifer and Teresa give Dolores a hug saying, you know, A for effort, but nothing was accomplished. You then see the other four girls outside being like, did Bo Dietl ever investigate Jackie? And Margaret was like, I don't think so. And then Danielle is like, it's always the person who you least expects, who you think is irrelevant, that has the most tea. And then Danielle is like, I'm so glad I only invited her to one of my parties. And so then Dolores ends up just sitting down at the table, just kind of like that opening scene we have from the opening scene for the season where she's just like, where do we go from here? Like, we don't go anywhere from here, I guess. She was like, we used to be family, but like, I don't think we're going to ever be family anymore. And so she gets up, puts on her little black shawl, and she walks out the door. They show a montage of all the good times the ladies had. And then that scene ends right there. Right then and there. And honestly, I feel like this show could work if they got rid of not Margaret, but Melissa and Teresa, because I feel like there's enough feuds happening that this could work. Like, we have Jennifer versus Danielle, you know. And like that could be one of the central feuds. You could then bring on two new girls to mix up this stuff. But like, we could actually have a show if you got rid of them two. I'm just saying. But yeah, y'all, that is it. That is all. Remember to be bravely authentic, and definitely hop down in them comments below and share your thoughts with me. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.